Hey guys, and welcome back for another episode of Entrepreneurs Exhale. I have a very special guest with me here today, Alaisja. She's of Social Girl Marketing.
Yes.
And I just can't wait to hear about her story about how she got into social media content management. And I've attended some of your masterminds and met you at a meetup. And I know
Yes.
you are like all things social media.
Yes.
And
yes.
you've taught me a lot of things too. And I always felt like I was kind of in a good space. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, like I was already managing my clients' social media accounts. And then like I started talking to you, I was like, oh, I got a lot to learn.
Yes. So I guess I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah,
It's
start
such
from the
like
beginning.
a long story. But it's kind of like a little inspirational story too, just because I truly believe in doing what you love. And I feel like time is like the most valuable thing. And for a while, I just felt like I was wasting my time. And so this is kind of how I got into it. So I always been a really social person. I started learning sales at a tanning salon back when I turned 21. I remember I used to be like, and it was like a whole thing, you guys. Like I used to be a bed cleaner at the tanning salon. Okay, so I was 21. I think I just turned 21 because I can't remember like if the reason they wouldn't let me be a consultant is because I wasn't there. But anyways, I can't remember. I was working at a movie theater when I was like younger. Upgrade to the tanning salon. All the girls were so cute, so pretty, all in sales, and I didn't realize like what it was about. And like for a while, I was like, why can't I be like a salon consultant? Like I want to make commission, and like they wouldn't hire me as a consultant. They just I did a great job cleaning beds, and they didn't want to like give me.
You clean beds too well.
Yeah, I cleaned it too well, you guys. And so I remember they were like telling me like, no, like they even gave me a raise. Like I was making the same hourly as a consultant, but they wouldn't upgrade me to commission. So then like I was in the one that was ITAN in Del Mar. And I remember I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to another ITAN. Like, what the heck? I'm going to go apply somewhere else because it was franchised. So I ended up like applying to like the Poway one. And I remember there was like this whole debacle. Like everyone was like, you're stealing our girl, our tanning bed cleaner. And like, we don't want to let her go. And I was like, I'm not going to stay here because like, I want to make commission too. And I remember like I got hired at the Poway ITAN, and I remember like getting into it, and like if you guys don't know this, but like tanning salons are like crazy in sales. Okay, like you have to like sell to like $10 at least to every person coming in, or like your like little like quota goes down, and so you're always like stressed. Like I gotta sell to these people. And a lot of the time, like they would have like already have memberships, already have a bottle of lotion. Just put me in my bed. Like, what was the point, right? So I remember like just getting really good at talking to people and getting really familiar with people's like personalities and like how to talk to certain people. And I remember like I would like outsell the managers, like I'd outsell everyone. And it was like so crazy that like the manager used to get really mad at me because I would beat her in sales, right? And I was always just like, I'm just good at talking to people versus like I don't just focus on the sell, I focus on the person. So I got really good at like noticing certain personalities and how people morph, and like got really good with like matching to their level of like how they talk to you, I guess. So that's kind of how I got into sales and how I learned sales. And so from there, I remember like just hating it there because the managers were so like mean to me. Like I had like the worst time there, and like I was like doing my best, and I would make her look good. Anyways, it was like this whole thing. So then I went to the competitor, and I went to the Hollywood Tans is like the competitor back in the day.
Yep.
So I remember going there, and I remember they hired me as the sales training manager for all their 9 locations. So I went, and like they hired me to do it, but then it was crazy because like there was no training. It was kind of like unorganized, like they did not know like how to train the girls.
It's an opportunity for you to like literally shine them.
Yeah. So I ended up creating like a whole training program for them, and like that's kind of how I got into like just like dealing with other people and like got like my management like experience. And then from there I'm like, okay, I can't do this long for like the rest of my life. So then I ended up leaving and going to lease at Vantage Point Apartments.
Okay.
I was there for 5 years.
I call that the next level after the dorms.
The next level after the dorms. It was like a big kid job. And I remember at that point I was 23 or 24. And I remember like going there and like just I got to like learn even more people, and like I got really good at leasing apartments. So that was just like a whole different type of sale, right?
Right.
And this is where I like was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I hate this. And this is kind of where I hit my like, I need to do something else. Corporate, get me the F out of here.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going there, and I would like lease like probably like 30 apartments a month. And all the other agents would lease like 5 or 6 apartments a month. And I was like, this, so like I would get these
What was the vacancy rate in that building?
It was always full. So there was 93 floor plans, and there were, I mean, we never really like filled up all the way. So we always had stuff to sell because people were always moving out. The building sucked. So I would like get them in, and then they would like leave the next month because they just hated it. So it was based off of like, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. It wasn't even, they weren't even focused on retention at that point. They would just like work us like dogs. Like they're moving out, get them back in. It was just like the worst. And like I was cleaning up pee and a human pee and like the hallways would be drunk.
This is why I call it the next level after the dorm.
Oh my gosh, you guys, it was so bad. It was so bad. And I was there for 5 years. Like I felt like I was just stuck.
That's where all the after parties were. After partying downtown.
Oh my gosh, that was the building. That was the building when I was at the building. Like I don't know how, I know that they sold it or whatever, but anyway.
What year was this that you were there?
2020 was my last year there, and I was there 5 years ago. So
okay,
yeah,
you were there for 5 years.
I was there for 5 years.
Yeah, so definitely I was partying
you were
around
probably
then.
there.
Oh
yeah, everybody ended up at Vantage Point Apartments. That's how I met a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was babysitting adults, and it just got to the point where I was like, I would see people come in, and I'd be like, "What are you guys doing? Like, where do you work? Like, where do you work? Get me out of here! Like, tell me.
Do you have a job
like,
for me?
do you have anything? Like, anything at all?" And so I remember, like, real estate kind of goes into, like, the leasing usually gets into real estate. For some reason, it's like housing, right? So you think that that's your next thing, right?
Right.
So I ended up, like just feeling hopeless. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get my real estate license. And so literally, you guys, I hate real estate. I have the biggest heart for people in real estate, but it's not for me. So so fast forward back rewind. I ended up getting my license, but I was still working there. And it wasn't that I hated, like, I didn't hate the people. Like I met some great people, and this is kind of like where I got into what I do now. So like I fell in love with marketing myself because I remember getting into it, and I was like basically a slave at Vantage Point, and I was like, this was like my saving grace to get out kind of feeling. And I was like, I got to get really good at this. Like, how am I going to make myself stand out? Like everybody's a realtor. And it wasn't even as bad as it is now. Like,
yeah, that was when it was just getting started.
That was when it was like on the rise. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, okay, like, how am I going to stand out? And I remember me and my brother, he was a veteran, and he wanted to get into it with me he just got out of the military. So I was like, why don't we just like be a brother-sister team? Like, why don't we?
That's so cute.
Yeah. So then working with your brother. So yeah. So anyway, so I ended up telling my brother, I'm like, okay, what we're going to do is like at every open house, we're going to play like the Home Buster song, like, or the Ghostbuster song. And I named it the Home Buster song. So like we turn it on, and it would be like, like at every open house, like every time somebody saw me and him, like we were the Home Busters, and I wanted them to remember us. I was like, this is gonna be my strategy. Okay, we're gonna get people to remember us based off of this song. And I remember like playing it all the time. We even did like all these before Reels even came out, you guys. We were doing little skits. Okay, like
I love it.
I'll like have.
I might have you send me one so I can put it in.
It's still there, the skit that we did, and it's so embarrassing. But you know what? I was thinking about that today, and I'd be like, this would have been a really good reel. But anyways, it's very long. It's very long, and it's hilarious. So anyway, we would like walk, and we'd be like we're the Home Busters, like. Had so much fun with it. And I would like even make like our little like logo, and it was like back when like little emoji people were a thing.
Oh, remember that? Yeah.
You guys, I put it on everything. Like, it was not. Anyway, so like my little character, like Lizzie McGuire.
Yep.
I had my own little like real estate here. Yeah, we've all been
on Snapchat, the ones from Snapchat.
Yeah. So I was crazy about that. So anyway, this is when I got into it. So I remember people would come up to me, and they would be like, so how are the Home Busters? Nothing about real estate. Nothing about houses. They would just remember the Home Buster because of the song.
Right.
And we ended up getting a lot of like deals from that. People would be like, oh, we want to work with the Home Busters. And like, we were I remember I branded it so well that they remembered the name. Like they didn't even know my brother's name sometimes. They would just remember like my name and the Homebusters. And like I was Homebuster number 1, he was number 2. And that was just like our names basically. And that was who we were, you guys. And anyway, so like fast forward, and I remember like my brother, like, you know, brother, sister, like love him to death. But I was like, okay, I hate this. I hate real estate.
Who's older? Who's younger?
He's older.
Okay.
He's 33 now, and I'm 30. I just turned 31. So no, I think he's 34.
You were clearly the brains behind the operation.
I was the brains behind the operation, but he was the connect. Like he
Yeah.
had all the military like brothers that would like always take us. So he kind of got us off the ground, and I was like the head of marketing for us.
Yeah.
So like we did pretty good. But I remember I was like, I got into this huge stigma where it became like a popularity contest, and it was just, I felt like with real estate, it was like all about like who are you with, and like it just became like not about your potential, but it was like your team's potential, or like I don't know, the vibe of real estate was not my favorite at all. Yeah. I've always wanted to create something that was mine.
Yeah.
From the ground up, whether it was like a crazy like startup, anything that was just mine, like I created it, you know?
Right.
And so I remember like telling my brother, I'm like, okay, like we also got into like, we were brothers. Like he didn't know a lot about certain things. And I was like 5 years in leasing. I knew how to deal with people.
Right.
And he had no idea. And it was just like not it. So I remember he ended up going on and like doing Redfin and all that. And so I ended up leaving. I was still at the leasing place, and I was like, okay, back to square one.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? And I remember I'm like, okay, people really remembered us from like when we did the Homebusters, and that's how I got into it. So I told my mom, and like my mom's like a big entrepreneur. She's like, you probably see her on my reels, biggest supporter.
I met her in person.
Yeah, you met her. Miss Muscle Barbie with 6 kids.
Yeah,
kicked my ass in the bodybuilding competition, literally. But literally. And so
she's ripped.
Yeah, she's ripped. So we ended up well, wait a second, where was I? So then I ended up leaving him, and I told my mom. So I was like, okay, Mom, like, let me just run your Instagram for free. I was like, why don't I just like post for you and like just see what's up? And like I started like doing little videos of her. You guys, I started Instagram marketing but like before it was video format. I think like video format was on the rise, but usually it was just like the photo. Yeah, the photo was just everything. Only, yeah. And Flipgram, like
Flipagram.
That was like my shit. That was the new thing, and I would like literally take all my memories. I'd put these little tiny like pictures in the squares, and it was like the border, and it was like a thing.
Yeah. It was so much simpler back then.
It really was. Yeah. And so I ended up doing that for my mom. So I did it for free because like I kind of was like, okay, I'm not gonna like charge anyone if I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I'm like a big believer of like, know what you're doing before you charge people, because there's a lot of like fake fraud out there, and like people say that they can do something and
louder for the people
they
in the back.
can't do it. Yeah. So oh my gosh. So then what happened was I ran hers, and then she started getting like clients reaching out to her, and people were like, oh, I want to like look at you, I want to work out with you. And there was like this huge correlation between the pictures we were posting, the people who were seeing it, and like the community that was being built in it. And so my mom ended up like, she was like, wow, like I actually am getting so many clients. I really want to focus on this. And then I went to my sister, and she teaches little babies how to swim, like little 3-month babies are swimming across the pool. I know.
Keep that in mind if I ever get pregnant.
No, I know. She's the best you will ever imagine. So we're all kind of entrepreneurial. So I started running her page. And then I remember my mom was like, I'm in this like networking group. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Teams, BNI, whatever.
Hers was BNI.
Yeah, so BNI, this was kind of like a little bit of a spinoff. It was my first group. And this is kind of where my business took off, because I ended up getting a lot of experience, and then I ended up getting myself into the group. And I was just like, I do social media management, where I will like manage your account for you. And I remember charging like $500, and I would post you guys 6 times a week.
Oh,
and like I didn't realize like that's spam. But back in the day, that like it was a little bit different. Like the way it morphs is crazy. Like to us that would be crazy. Back in the day, like that's what it was apparently. I thought.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and that's kind of where I started pricing at like $500 like to do all this work. I was a slave. But I will say this, like I ended up the amount of people who signed up with me was insane. I had like 30 clients in that one group, like within weeks. And so I finally was able to fully like be like, okay, I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to leave. And it was like this crazy jump. I just jumped.
Like that.
Yeah, I got
and
enough
you guys
money
were
to
creating
match.
the content too, not just managing it, but creating
it. Yeah.
So how did you build out your team to support all that?
Yes. So for a while I did everything. So I will say that.
Yourself.
Yes, because back in the day, social media managers weren't a thing. That wasn't an industry. That wasn't.
So what year are we in at this point?
So it was 2018.
Okay.
Was when I started doing it. So 2018, still doing real estate, still doing management, and then just dabbling.
Kind of just like side hustle on each of them until you were able to go all in.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was doing kind of everything and I was just like getting experience. Then I got into the group. Then I started taking off the clients, and on the weekends I would just work my ass off, like because I would get 2 days off and I would just work and just be creating content like crazy. Like my fingers would go numb. I didn't do anything on the computer, by the way. I just did on my phone because they had all these editing apps coming out. Like they would have like Ripple was like the first one, and Ripple is like way more better now.
Familiar with that one.
Yeah. So it basically, you put things in templates and it would make video form stuff. So you put pictures in templates and it would make video form. And so that would wow everybody. They'd be like, whoa, like what is this? And like from there, like I just was like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do. So then 2019, I was really thinking about leaving, and then 2020 is when everything happened. This is when I started my company big time, was in 2020.
And it was perfect timing with COVID because everybody was going into social selling at that point.
Yes. It was on the rise. So that's when I ended up, like, I remember like our building was so crazy about COVID. So they'd be like, if any of you get COVID, you're out for 2 weeks. So I remember like I would tell people, I'm like, just text me that you got COVID. And then I would like be out for 2 weeks. And I was able to get an entire month off where I was able to go get all my clients. And then that's when I jumped.
Yeah.
So I finally like freed myself. And I remember having times where I'd like be walking downtown listening to my music, and I was just so sad. And I was like, I hate this. I would rather be in the pond with that homeless man. There was always like this naked homeless man in that pond by my building, you guys. And I remember seeing him every single day. And I'd be like, I would rather be him right now than go back to this building.
Oh my
goodness.
It
was crazy. And
toxicity.
I would get into it, but that would take up the entire talk. Anyway, so from there, I remember like it was terrifying. And I remember like going to the beach and having this like moment where I was like, it's just me. Like I have no one, like just me. I'm gonna like really like hustle, and I really want to be the best. Like I'm a very A-type personality that borders B, but I'm definitely in the A category where I'm like, I want to be the best at what I do, and I want to do it well. So from there, it became this whole thing where, because I started running Instagram for business owners, right? My mom was a business owner, my sister. It wasn't really for influencing. It wasn't. It was all within the realm of sales, because that's what I know how to really do was sales. I got into it, started out at the tanning salon, like I said, and I kind of morphed into it. And I just fell in love with connecting with people. And I feel like sales is like a toxic word, because people are like, instantly like people's walls go up, right?
Oh yeah, nobody wants
don't sell to me. I don't want to know about it, right? So with social media, like it's not a sales platform, and I tell business owners this all the time. They're like, how am I going to get money? How is the sale? What are you going to track? How is this going to, like, I'm like, you got to calm down. We're going to build it through community. And it's like a term that no one understands, but like the way I go about things is not from a sales standpoint, but it's from an emotional standpoint, because the buyer process moves through emotions. It doesn't move through whatever you're selling. That's great, but people don't care.
Yeah.
People, I mean, everybody naturally, we're selfish. Like we're going to think like, what is this going to do for me? That's the ultimate question when it comes to Instagram marketing. So a lot of the stuff has to be tailored to who you serve. And a lot of people tailor it to what they do. And that's a big difference. Like if you can learn how to tailor what you do to the person who needs what you offer, it's different game. So like I always say, when I set up all the accounts, it should say, I help my clients with blank, I help my patients, I help my customers, whatever it is, but it always needs to be tailored to that person, right? So like I got into like major like psychology marketing, and I just started studying it and seeing like a lot of it was like self-taught. I didn't really I remember like I was like, I'm gonna take this course on digital marketing, whatever thing online that had nothing to do with Instagram marketing at all, and I took it just so I'd have like a certification if somebody wanted to see if I was like certified.
Yeah.
But I was like, that would teach you nothing. That would do nothing for you.
It's literally just to have a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's honestly probably the biggest or the first aha moment that I had with social media, because transitioning from like a corporate atmosphere where everything in corporate, like all their marketing and branding, it's already been established for so long, because I worked for major Fortune 500 companies. So they're putting things out there that are catering to the brand. So when I launched my own business, everything I was posting was about my brand. And I'm realizing as I'm getting deeper into it, nobody connects with a brand.
Nobody.
People connect with a person and what that person stands for and their story, the story behind the brand that they're creating. And that's when I started to really shift and bring everything into perspective. Like I had all these different multiple accounts for all of my different brands and businesses. And it was getting so overwhelmed. I'm like, how can I manage, 4 different accounts for all my businesses, and then also manage my clients' accounts and my personal account? And I felt like I was drowning. And it was only until I started to bring them all together and kind of like, what I can't think of the word right now, but it's like when you conjoin everything, it's like everything filtered through my own personal brand. And I'm like, oh, and then they introduced the collaboration posts, and I'm like, now I can collaborate with my brand.
Best feature they've ever given us.
Yep. Seriously. Yep. To share the engagement across, accounts. And so that really was like the game changer. But I feel like it's gotten so overcomplicated.
It really has. Trust me, you guys, when Reels came out, right? I was used to like videos, like the videos, right? And then Reels came out, and it was a whole new Reel funnel that people didn't understand. Like if you were a TikToker, you got it. But if you're not a TikToker, which I've never really been a TikToker, I strictly do Instagram and Facebook. And then I'm working on sprinkling LinkedIn now into like what I do, because I'm more focused on the sale. Not that TikTok doesn't sell, but it's not my realm, and I'm straight up about that with people.
Yeah.
But I remember when it came out, I was like, what is this? Like, I have to change everything now. And I had to like pivot, and like it was really hard. I remember like having to like just change everything. But once I got into Reels, I was like, this is better. Like I almost liked it better, just because like you could pick your song. I wouldn't have to like find some like crap song that was on like the app or whatever. It's so old school, you guys. So anyway, so I remember then the Reels came out, and I started learning that. But like the one thing that kind of took my business like to heights is I got into this mentorship with this lady called Carol Basato, and she's retired now.
Aww,
I was one of her last students that she took, and I remember like I barely signed up for her thing, and like a lot of the things that I've been doing, she basically took it and like organized it. And I literally sent her a video like recently. I was like almost like crying, because I was like, you changed the way I market, because of the way a lot of the things that she taught me was like right within alignment with what I do, because marketing is so many different avenues. And I'm really clear about this, because like there's this big stigma, and I always say that there's 2 avenues when it comes to Instagram marketing, social media marketing. There's the influencer avenue. And the influencer avenue is where you're going after vanity metrics, right? So you're going after views, you're going after likes, you're going after follows, right? And not that stuff's not important, it is, but there's the other avenue on this side with business owners, it's business growth avenue, right? And your goal is to hit KPIs, like send them to the link, DMs of people reaching out saying that they want to sign up, right? Comments of people saying like, I'm interested in your service, right? So the 2 avenues are completely different avenues of marketing. And I remember like my mentor, she like beat that into my head. And I was like, okay, because like for a while I was like, look at all your views though, look at all your look at all these things. And they're like, I'm making $0.
But if that's not converting.
Yes, I'm making $0. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to change. And this is how I niched down in my own business. I was like, I'm no longer going to be about the influencer avenue. I'm going to be about the business growth avenue. So I usually, when I sign up clients, I'm like, if you're looking for conversions, if you're looking for immediate like clicks on your link, immediate like goals that we are hitting through the social platform, that's going to be me. If you're looking for something else like entertaining, like stuff like that, that's not going to be me. Like I'm not going to go after entertainment. We're not entertainment entertainers as business owners. We are business owners. We don't have time to sit around and entertain people and get $0. We need to make money. So that's kind of what I niche down in. So a lot of people, when they see me, like, okay, you're like social girl marketing, you do like, they always think I'm like an influencer. And like, if you get to know me and if you watch any of my stuff or come to any of my masterminds, I am so opposite of that. I'm like, how much money can we get you? Like, I'm like, let's talk about your audience. Let's talk about like our messaging. Cause like, the CEO of Instagram, he just came out with this video and he was like, video productions, like when you will get everything great and the graphics are amazing, that doesn't mean conversions. That doesn't mean that your audience is going to resonate with that. You got to get clear on your messaging and like your goals. Like, what are your goals? And a lot of people don't know what their goals are.
Right.
As their business, they are just always going after the influencer avenue. So I kind of came in and I'm like,
this is why TikTok took off though, because nobody was focusing on the aesthetic anymore.
Yes.
People were just putting out raw content.
Yes.
And that's starting to filter through, I feel like, to Instagram.
It is. Yeah. A lot of the time, I always talk to people who get analysis paralysis and they're so fixated on their grids. They're so fixated on everything looking perfect. And then they end up posting nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, post it. Please just post it because
just
you
spend
started. Time. And I'm big on time. Like, if you're spending hours and hours creating content and not posting it because you have analysis paralysis, that's probably a reason you're failing.
Yeah.
So post it.
Yeah. So I want to get more into, so we understand the journey now, right? Of like how you started out your career, why you got into social media marketing. At what point did you realize it's only me? I can only do so much. I need to expand my team. And what was that process to build out your team? What were those challenges like?
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's talk about that. So I got to the point where I was burnt out. And if you know, you can't do anything when you're burnt out. You kind of just die there. And then you got to build yourself back up. And as an entrepreneur, if any of you probably crawled out of the burnout bowl multiple times. I call it the burnout bowl because I've been there so many times I can't even count. But anyway, so I ended up hiring my first little social girl. Her name was Christina. And she actually stayed with me for like 4 years. I got so lucky. She was like a USD graduate and didn't really know what she wanted to do. And she stayed with me. And all she was really doing was doing the posting because I don't believe in using like automatic posters because there's something called post and ghost. And it's where you kind of get it out and it's out of sight, out of mind. And you miss a lot. So for me, like I told myself, I'm like, I'm never really going to do that. I'm going to make sure everything's manually posted. That was always like my thing. Going on, posting, seeing the engagement, being active into it. And so she would go in and do that. That was her job. So she did a good job. And then she ended up leaving me and I was like basically starting at zero again. I ended up hiring another girl. I'm not going to mention names because, you know, I ended up hiring another girl. She didn't live here. She lived somewhere else. And there was a lot of complications with her, like just things not getting done and like me losing clients over it. It was really stressful. And like scaling this out, you guys, was the hardest thing to do because people don't understand this, but social media managers, like we wear many hats within that realm. So like you're thinking about, and like if you've managed accounts for somebody else, you would even know. You get a little taste of it because you're filming content, you're posting content, you're creating captions, you're creating the brand, you're creating the design. And what I did, you were creating the sales strategy. You have to stay up and know how Instagram's algorithm, aka behaviors, works within the app in order to even be successful. And
sometimes even running ads.
Exactly. I don't run ads. So ads is not something in my realm. I have a guy who does that for all my clients because again, it was too much for me. I was not going to do that. For me, I'm all about being the best within my niche. And my niche is organic and it's raw and it's community building and leveraging from there. I don't do ads, not that ads and what I do coincide perfectly together. Like having a campaign and then having a community is key. And I always say like have a community before you run ads because a lot 100%. Of people go straight for the gold that they miss out. Like the gold's always going to get more expensive and more competitive. But if you have a community, it starts to feed you. So it's kind of like when you're working out and you like go straight to like Ozempic, but you don't have any habits of health to like back you up. And then you're like, okay, great, I'm going to get off of this and I'm screwed, right? Same thing. You've got to have those healthy habits, those working out habits to back you up before you take it to the next level. Yeah. Straight to it. And I always like to use that as like my little analogy because it's so relatable. Anyway, so excuse me, I almost said her name, block that out. With her, I ended up, just didn't work out with her. So I ended up having to let her go. And then I started from scratch again. Then I started to dabble in people who didn't work here. So I went to like India and I found this amazing guy. He reached out to me and he ended up doing like a lot of, my like editing work for me. So he saved me a lot of time with like the language barrier.
Yeah.
The grammar barrier. He was great at editing and then like things would go out and just look horrible. So then I was like, okay, it was just me doing everything and then maybe I had a little editor. And then so then I ended up getting rid of him. So again, I was like at ground base. So then I ended up growing my team huge. I hired like a bunch of like little edgy, cool kids who like were really familiar with editing. So I had a team of like 7 editors. And I remember like it was so overwhelming and I hate it. I started to hate what I was doing because I was just had so many people I was looking out for and it was just all over the place. So they would post, they would do this, and it just wasn't working either. So I ended up getting rid of all of them and I was at ground zero again. And then I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have like categories of what each person would do. So I started to like organize it. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to film everything. And like, cause like what I do, the difference between other agencies versus me is like, when you're my client, you're going to get me with like the coaching, the talking, the how to present your product is you're going to get me because it needs to be done a certain way. So I would film them, edit all their stuff. I have people who are like, live other places and we do a Zoom. So like I'm literally on Zoom with them while they're editing and filming and I'm just kind of like directing them. I'm going to be like, no, say it this way, do it this way. So like, I'm always going to be that person because that's kind of what makes my business, like, in my opinion, the best.
Yeah.
I really care about the messaging and content that goes out. But like when it comes to sales, it's got to be a certain way. There's a strategy and a framework to it. But anyway, so then I was like, okay, I'm going to film everything. I'm going to do that. That's always going to be my realm. Then I'm going to go ahead and send it. So then now I was able to get an entire team. I met this amazing lady named Diane who she still works with me now and she's really great. For me, I'm not like an employee person. I'm a contractor person. So I'm going to like contract them to do the work, but I'm going to be in charge of how the work gets done. That's kind of how I did it. So I ended up
subcontract it.
Yeah. So I ended up changing her business too because she was kind of just like doing like assistant work, right? And she wasn't really like a social media manager. So with my realm, it's like I kind of taught her how to do what I do. So it worked really well for us. So I ended up hiring her. She had her team already in place. So I was able to like divvy up the work. And I think divvying up the work, we had our designers, we had our posters, we had our caption writers, and then we had our engagement team and everything was in alignment. And I would just teach them their roles. So we avoided burnouts. We got really good results that way. And
everyone's good at their niche.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I was able to scale it.
Yeah. I love that. And like, this is the whole purpose of Entrepreneurs Exhale is because it's like where we come to unwind and unpack. Like a lot of times as entrepreneurs, like we never have someone else to sit there and talk to that gets it and understands. But like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to recreate the wheel, change my business model, start from ground zero, recreate a website, like literally my entire marketing strategy. I mean, when I first started out, I was doing email marketing. I'm like, nobody even cares about that anymore. Then I'm trying with social media and I'm like, no one cares about me building a brand. Then I'm trying to build a personal brand. Like there's so many times we reinvent ourselves. And I think one of the biggest challenges in business is literally coming to a place where you're wanting to expand your team. It's like when you're an SME, when you're a subject matter expert in your field, and like you said, you are the reason why your business is successful. You alone is what makes it the success and why people come to you. Social girl marketing. So then how do you translate that to a team of other people to basically create an army of minions like you? And it's like it takes a couple tries. And you know what? And then stateside you have, you know, especially California, employment labor laws you got to deal with. And then when you go overseas, you have time difference and language barriers and, you know, all these different things. So really just finding like that person, that extension of you, that secret ingredient, that secret sauce to bring it to life is so like such a game changer. So it sounds like you guys got a well-oiled machine now. It's like it's running well.
I cannot tell you. I remember like this was like my like moment of like finally. I remember like going to like my real studio and I usually have like a to-do list like of this long, and I remember like going there and I didn't realize it. I didn't write anything down on my to-do list, and I was like, what am I gonna do today?
Because you finally have a team supporting you.
Yeah, they ended up doing everything. I was like, no, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's what they're. And I literally like had this moment of like, I think I finally found a way to scale, because it was like, it felt really good.
And how many years in were you at this point?
Year 6. That
year
was
6,
like this year.
And they say around about like, if you can make it past the 5-year mark in a business, then you can sustain. Like anything past 5 years, I feel like.
I know. You know, I heard this thing. I might get it wrong, but it was like, when you are running a business, it takes 5 years to get good at what you do. And then after that, you start to like, once you're good at what you do, then you find ways on how you can like scale it. But like, it takes 5 years to get good. And that is so true. It took me 5 years to actually like
Did you have any formal education or training on marketing before you started doing it, or was that just all the hands-on experience that you got?
I ran accounts for free for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna, and it's kind of crazy. Alex Hormozy, I always like listen to him and watch Layla. They're amazing. And it was funny because like he came out, he said something. He was like, you don't charge, or like your time when you aren't making money, you're buying yourself experience. So you shouldn't be charging. You do it for free.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, that's what I did. That's what I did, because I just didn't feel comfortable like charging people. And I was like, I gotta know, I want to be really good at this. So I remember I think I ran like 10 accounts for free. And then after I was like, I gotta start charging you, because you're starting to get results, and like my time's not free. And that was a whole battle within itself, by the way. Realizing your worth and adding tax.
See, I had a different experience, and I think that's because I stayed within the same skill set that I was doing in corporate. Like I was an executive assistant for C-suite level execs, but now I was transitioning from corporate to private clients. And I think that was the biggest challenge and like bottleneck, right? Because it's like, here I was leaving behind a 6-figure salary, and maybe one entrepreneur couldn't afford that, but probably 3 could. So I was juggling anywhere from 2 to 3 clients at a time, but like having to describe to them like, no, this is what I'm worth. Like, this is what I was making. This is what I did. Like that was probably the hardest thing in business for me. And then what I had to do was get past my ego. And instead of saying like, okay, it's not that they don't see what you're worth, it's that you're competing with people in the Philippines for $8 to $10 an hour. And so listen to what the marketplace wants. Like they want hourly support, they want no long-term commitments, they want pay as you go, they want flexibility. And so I restructured my business model to now offer like 10-hour packages. Like a lot of people were coming to me saying like, oh yeah, I would love to work with you, but like, I don't want to sign up for a 3 or 6 month, contract. And I just want to, pay as I go. I only need 10, 20 hours a week. I need part-time support. So what I started to realize is, okay, let's test this out. Let's do 10-hour packages. They keep buying 10 hours, 10 hours, 10 hours, until eventually it's like, hey, I've been tracking, your spending. I can actually save you money if I scale you up to a full-time virtual assistant, and then you have a fixed rate and it's for on-call support, and you know what you're paying. And then as their business grows and scales, because it should, with the amount of support that we're providing, then they can level up with us with, more increased support. And then the retainer, obviously increases with the amount of work that's being done. So that's how I figured out my secret sauce.
That's awesome.
And it sounds like, and I always like to kind of close out the segment on this, and because your person that you started working with, you taught her your business and social media marketing, but she was really an assistant, it sounds like, first. And so I loved that you said that, because in so many ways, I've supported clients across so many different industries. I even became a real estate investor myself because I learned how to do that through supporting my client who did real estate investing. So like I converted my condo into an Airbnb. I ended up becoming a multifamily syndicator investor, like because you literally learn the business of the person you're supporting. So
which is really cool.
Talk to me more about how you met your assistant, what that relationship was like, and just build out on that.
Yeah. So I, it's funny because like I said, like I don't have employees because I know my weaknesses and that is not a strength of mine. I don't like, I'm more of like a friend. That's just me. I'm a friend. I'm really strict with clients. I'm really upfront, but when you are working with me, I like morph into your friend immediately. And then I'm like confused on like why things aren't getting done or like, and so I went through that, right? And those were people who were basically my employees before I hired her. So I remember like she was the most on it person I've ever met in my life. I remember like she was like really high ticket and I was like, fine, whatever. Just like I met her like in a BNI networking group. And I remember I was like, okay, fine, I just need help. I can't do this anymore. I only have the guy who's doing the design and like I'm losing my mind. And I remember like she would think for me. And you're probably like the same
10
way.
steps ahead.
Good people think for you. And that's how I am with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just, they see where you're struggling and that's where they pick up the pieces. And I think that that's what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted her to already be good. I didn't want to have to think about having to make her good. And with all the other people, I was having to make them good. And I was like, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time. Like, I don't have time. And so she just kind of read my mind. And like, I just kind of taught her all my strategies and framework that needed to go into the editing and the caption writing and the engagement strategies. Like, I taught her them. And then from there, she just basically like took it. She's basically the one who like helped me like scale, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, well, let's get rid of him because he is making a lot of mistakes and like my team won't. I was like, done, because like it became more work with him. So then she ended up like taking over everything and then just came up with everything for me. And I was like, just take my money. And like, I literally was like, I'm a very easygoing friend type client. I feel like I'd be your perfect type of client, to be honest, because I don't have time and I just really want the work to get done and get done right. And I'm not like somebody who micromanages. Another thing. I don't check.
Yeah.
Because if I hire you, I'm thinking that you're gonna like do the job and do it right. And so with her, I was able to just like she just kind of picked it up and handled it. And I took her business, I think, to like the next level. And so she was really grateful for me. And like we just became like a really good team. And they're just like fast learners. Let's see, you guys, I'm really creative and like sales driven, but when it comes to like organization, when it comes to like I'm organized, what like to where I like know what needs to get done, but like as far as like processes and systems, forget it. Like,
and this is why I say it's like it's so imperative to find somebody who is working as an executive assistant or a chief of staff, and that's their superpower, not someone who's entry level. And don't get me wrong, everybody needs to like start somewhere, right? But the best of the best, like what truly differentiates, let's say, a virtual assistant or even an admin assistant from an executive assistant, chief of staff is experience. And having somebody come in and literally being able to identify the gaps, like you said, and saying like, this is where we need help. This is a blind spot. Let me be proactive on this. Let me be 10 steps ahead, anticipating your needs and acting without even being prompted to do so. That's where we come in and we really help. And because we have that foundation in operational support, and we are 9 times out of 10, or probably it should say more like 11 times out of 10, detail oriented, very organized, attention to detail, all of those things, it allows us to put that framework in place. So that way you can set it and forget it. And that's truly what needs to happen is when an entrepreneur is so busy and they're by themselves. They don't have time to train somebody and handhold them and be looking after them to make sure they're doing the job right. They have to be able to delegate and trust that that person's going to do their job and do it well, because they're hiring the person who has the expertise in that, and it's their superpower. It's like it's about building a team of people who are operating in their superpower. There's a great book out. It's called Who Not How, that talks about that. And I think that's where there's a bottleneck with a lot of entrepreneurs, that they don't realize it. It's like, well, this is my business, and they have a really hard time letting go and trusting other people, because they're building a brand and a reputation, and they don't want someone like how you had mentioned before. You had lost several clients because of mistakes that someone you hired, did. And that's everyone's biggest fear. And so that's why I say it's so important. Like, get the resumes, take the time to interview, do a trial period, get the references, talk to other people, like really know who you're getting involved with. when I tell my clients, like my new clients that come to me, I lay it out very simply. I say in the first 30 days, I'm learning you. I'm learning your personality, your work style. I'm learning your business. I'm like a sponge absorbing. By month 2, I'm anticipating your needs and I'm acting on your behalf without you even prompting me to do so. By month 3, we're smooth sailing. So
you should do a reel on that 100%, Victoria. Like just hearing this, I like my brain is like,
what do you think my editor is going to clip from here?
Process. Like, oh my gosh, like that
yeah.
speaks to your audience.
Yeah.
Like that immediately I would have hired you.
Yeah.
If you would have came up with a reel when I needed you at that moment, I would have been like, take my money, like help me, I'm drowning. Like literally that's it. That's your anyway.
So no, my editor will be clipping that part into a reel.
That's
but
first, yes, 100%.
So but you know, it took me a while myself to figure it all out because remember, like as an executive assistant, especially in corporate, I'm so focused on supporting my clients and seeing them shine that I had to change my mindset now to also have my other half of my brain, like how you described. You know, you have the influencer side and then you have the business side, and it's like I had both sides to me too. I have the executive assistant side who's more of a support role. And then I have the entrepreneur side who has to grow her business. And I have to simultaneously do both. And so figuring out how to navigate the waters of both of them so that one doesn't suffer more than the other and they both can grow and grow together simultaneously, really what allowed me to do that was this podcast, because I can now interview other entrepreneurs and highlight their story, which is important to me, right? And like start to build those relationships, but also showcase what it is that I do and fill in the gaps, the knowledge gaps with some people that have never worked with an assistant and they just don't know, or people that have and have had an incredible experience to shed that light and put the messaging out there of like how transformative that can be to an entrepreneur's success when they have a really good assistant.
Yeah, 100%. The assistant's everything. Like night and day, like night and day. Because what it allows you to be, and it's same thing with social media management, right?
Yeah,
they need us to do it for them because they can't be like being your own social media manager is a full-time job.
It is
with this day in this industry of how it how it operates. So you got to have, if you want results, you hire someone who knows what they're doing. So same thing as like, so we kind of pick up the pieces there, but then like, I'm going to need somebody, everybody needs their person. And like, to be honest, like having that somebody tell you they're going to think for you, that's insane. People don't get that. They don't get that.
But that's why I always say it's just like finding a therapist, right? Like in a way, like EA is kind of like double as a therapist because sometimes it's not a good personality fit.
No.
Sometimes it's not a good work style fit. If you're a client, let's say that's a morning person and you're an executive assistant who's like a night owl, and it's like if you don't find that synergy amongst the work styles or their personality styles, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a reflection poorly on the person. They can't perform. It just means it's probably not a good fit.
No,
Same thing with dating,
Same thing with dating. I mean, for me, I've had to, I don't hold people in contract with me. So like, if they don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with them. And I'm pretty clear about that because my personality, like if you start working with me, I don't really feel like I need to hold you in a contract. Like you can leave whenever you want. And most of the time my clients are with me for like years because like you're not really going to find sales meets Instagram the way I do it. And like, I'm pretty like specific about it because like I really do study what I do. And I've ran over 300, probably more accounts at this point. So like, I know what works, what doesn't work, and what the focus is. You got to be goal oriented and focused on who you're trying to attract nowadays. So, and not everybody was a good fit for me. I've had to let go of a few people, that they just want to go after this avenue. And I'm like, you're not, you need to hire somebody
you need someone who's a different fit.
I'm a different take for people. Like they'll look at me and be like, what is this realm of marketing? And it's some people don't really focus on it because they think that this realm is going to get you this realm and it's opposite. And
we've had a little sidebar conversation about a shared potential client about like who wanted more of like the clout as opposed to like actual conversions and like not a good fit for either one of us. So, because I feel like you and I have a similar personality when it comes to like business and how it's done.
Yeah, I'm result driven, not.
So, for anybody who's result driven, who wants to grow their business from a social media marketing perspective, how can people find you and get in touch with you and start working with you? Tell the people.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I actually have a course coming out. It's called the Revenue Revolution. And this course, you guys, I'm like, I put my heart and soul into it. It's only 10 modules because who has time to watch 50 million? And it's 10 modules of like from A to Z of the frameworks and the strategies you need to like actually like make money on social media. And it's all strategy driven, and it can morph with any type of person, business owner, because it's the same framework. So that's coming out, and at the very end, it's about mindset going into social and perspective. And so your 300 people that you think like, oh my gosh, that's the lowest views, I just want to take it down, like that's a room of 300 people. And so like a lot of it's like mindset at the very end. So it's coming out. I'm not done with it because I'm putting my heart and soul into it, but when it launches, like I'll let you know. And that'll be good for like the person who wants to do it themselves and just really wants to like not waste their time anymore and wants to feel like they have a plan and they have a strategy to execute for future endeavors. So that's coming out. And then you can follow me on Social Girl Marketing _ that's my Instagram account. That's kind of where I'm the most active. Tips, tricks, like a bunch of things that have worked for me. I also teach a mastermind in Mission Valley.
I've gone. It's awesome.
Yeah. So the masterminds are super cool. It's just like, it's a $75 membership, but all my classes are recorded and they're in person. So you get to come to the in-person class, navigation strategy, and you'll probably see like a bunch of my students on my page. So that's where you can go to get the support you need. If you're like, I'm an in-person type of person, that would be a great place for you to start. And then I do full media management. So these are the people who are like looking to outsource and want actual like conversion and results. Like that would be probably best for you. So that's kind of where you can find me on Social Girl Marketing _ or socialgirlmarketing.com is my website.
I love that.
Thank you.
And I'll keep it real with you guys. Like I feel like I'm a tough critic when it comes to like teaching because I'm a teacher myself. I also have courses that I sell, and attending Alaisja's event, and like I took down notes. Like I came home, I literally implemented what she taught me same day. I remember like we were sending messages and you're like, you wasted no time. I was like, girl, I got inspired.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can like literally attest to that and just be like, with not even 24 hours later, I implemented what I learned in her teaching. I highly recommend it. I recommend working with her, purchasing her digital courses, working with her one-on-one. Like you will get your money's worth. So
thank you.
Stamp of approval.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us once again for another episode of Entrepreneurs Exhale. Lots of love and sparkle.